Hey guys, it's Squishy here. I'm back from vacation now and I wanted to do a quick update on what's kind of been going on over the last couple of days. Now, I haven't played too much. I played about 12 hours, so a little bit last night and a little bit this morning. So a lot of this content that you see here has only really happened in the past kind of 12 hours since the last video. So the first thing I've got here is just finishing off my Ascendancy. I didn't get a chance to do the 4th Ascendancy before I was away. So this is just showing a bit of damage with the Trialmaster. A few mechanics with this one here as well. Now, this fight I did go into it a little bit blind. I wasn't quite sure of the mechanics, but I had a mate that told me that it was actually pretty okay in terms of the damage that he puts out. He did hit me quite hard at a certain point in the fight, but I wasn't too worried from then onwards. Got me down to about 3k mana. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, why has he got such a little energy shield now? I have actually made the swap to EB and Mind Over Matter, but I will talk about that a little bit later in the video. But yeah, this first couple of minutes of the video is going to be me showing you a couple of fights. So the first one here is the Trialmaster, like I said, and we're actually going to pick a pretty interesting Ascendancy that I haven't seen too many other people taking for this one. But again, I'll go into a bit of detail on that towards the end of the video when I go over kind of the changes I've made to the build, how I've got so much damage now with it. But yeah, just taking him down here, fairly straightforward overall with that fight there. I think you just have to be aware of that big slam that he does because it can hit quite hard. And we'll just see what I get before I change to the next one. Yep, so there you go. Right, the next one here is one of the Citadel fights. So for this one, this is the Copper Citadel. So this is the Act 2 boss. Again, I didn't really look into too many of the mechanics here, just kind of remembered from what I did in the start of the campaign. So I knew that the first phase is pretty straightforward. Did actually briefly forget that you have to stand out the way of that wind spell, but after that the fight was pretty straightforward in this first phase. And then he kind of takes you to that outside sort of phase when he skips it as well. So you guys probably know a lot of this fight already. The Citadel bosses weren't as hard as I kind of thought they would be. Thought they'd be a little bit stronger. Thinking back into Path of Exile 1, I thought they might be as strong as Syrian Exarch or Eater of Worlds, but probably a bit more of a tier below that. Maybe something like Shaper, not too strong in terms of how much damage they do with that one. But we'll just continue with this fight quickly, and you'll see that I've made a couple of changes as well in terms of the way the actual spark interacts with the boss. So I've actually dropped Pierce and I've changed for Fork, and I've got a lot more damage than I did before. And I'll be getting into how that's happened and how I've kind of gone about that shortly, but again, just wanted to show you the kind of the damage that you can kind of expect on these bosses in terms of the end game. My spark's sitting at about 35k tooltip with no buffs, and then I've obviously got the Lightning Rod Anoint, so that's somewhere between 50% more damage for that. So I would assume it's around 55 with that as a base, and then I can buff it with Sigil of Power and that sort of stuff for that one. But again, I'm going to go into a bit more detail of that towards the end of the video. This one here drops the more expensive of the fragments. So this was the Faded Crisis fragments, and these ones are I think around 70 exalts at the moment each. So probably the most expensive of the three. The set's surprisingly not too expensive for that one. But we'll get into the last kind of fight here, and this is the one that I had a little bit of had a look at it before. So I did know it had one-shot mechanics. I was aware that I had to get inside those circles and dodge those kind of flame waves that he does. But something interesting kind of happened, and I actually kind of out DPS'd a lot of the phases. I don't think I actually moved in a specific way to disrupt the fight. I think the damage that I actually put on him in the fight just made him skip a couple of those mechanics. But you'll see here, working on him quite strong at the start here, instantly getting him down to that first kind of flame phase. And I said to myself, when those balls come out, I don't know how fast I'm going to be able to move, so I wanted to just focus on the movement and not really worry too much about the damage. So here I'm just waiting for these flame balls to come out, stand in those circles, and I'm just moving to that. That's why you see me not attacking, because I'm really paranoid about getting one shot to the other ones that are coming down. But he only really hits me with the two there, almost knocks me back out there, and then I actually just start DPSing him again. And then from this point, I'm thinking he's going to go into his next phase, and I'm just like, oh, I've actually probably DPS him down here and just finish him off there. So quite a solid kill on that one. I still don't think I've mastered those mechanics at all. Obviously, I skipped a lot there. But yeah, that was one way to go about it. Just fair. Alright, we're going to get into a few things here, and what you're probably most interested in is the upgrades I've made with the character. So in my last video I had about 16,500 energy shield. I was just going for the highest number possible there just because I wasn't sure on how hard those final bosses would hit. But I've kind of scaled it back a bit. I've spec'd a bit out of defense and I've got a lot more damage. I've got about 4 or 5 times the damage that I had in the last video, and I've probably lost, I want to say like 3 or 4,000 effective health pool, maybe like 20-30% in terms of actual damage I can take. So as you can see, I have taken on the tree, Mind Over Matter, and I have also taken Eldritch Battery. So Eldritch Battery converts all energy shield to mana, so every single one of my gear pieces here, these energy shield numbers, it just takes them all and puts them straight onto my mana. And then I've actually still got quite a bit of an energy shield pool. So my mana at this point, 5.5, and this amulet, Everlasting Gaze, takes 30% of it and puts it on my energy shield. And then obviously all my ES scaling from there allows me to get back to that 7.2k number. So if you add them together, we're looking at, you know, just around 13k for that one, so not quite as high as the 16. But you do have that second part of your pool with your mana regening. So as you take damage, you'll regen the health back. So it kind of mitigates it a bit there. But you are more susceptible for one-shots in that sense, and also probably a little bit more susceptible to being stunned, and if you don't have Dream Fragments frozen as well. But the damage is 100% worth it. As you can see here, just sitting here, about 33,000. And if I take away the Eldritch Battery, you'll see that it drops right down to about 18k. So just pretty much doubling the damage on that one. So I definitely think that is an upgrade that you have to make with the build. Obviously when you can afford it. Now, the next one is a big, expensive upgrade, and this is going to cost probably too much for a lot of you to start off with, but when you get into tier 15, 16 maps, you do start getting Divine Orb drops, and you can start making a bit of currency. So eventually you will be able to afford this Anoint. It does just cost a lot to start with, and I am expecting it to come down in price a little bit. So the Anoint that I'm talking about here is the Lightning Rod. So it says lightning damage with non-critical hits is lucky. So what lucky means is it rolls the damage twice and just takes the higher number. So as you can see here, if I look at my spark, it'll have lightning damage 647 to 12,335. Basically, it'll roll these numbers twice, somewhere between there, and it will just pick the higher one, and that is your damage. So it's essentially giving you a massive damage boost. I heard it's around 50% more. So if this is 33, I'll be thinking that would be around 50,000 with the DPS there with the spark. So it's a very, very strong upgrade. I do think it's kind of mandatory for the end game of the build. But you do have to sacrifice a few things to obviously make that happen. So before we're getting the Pierce Anoint over here. Forgot where it was, but it's somewhere around here. Here, Piercing Shot, and then we're getting the 3 jewels to make up that 100%. So what I've opted to do is I've dropped the Persistence and I put Fork in. And then I've dropped the jewels for just some energy shield, faster start, and a couple of other things on there as well. So that is what I've decided to do with that. You do lose the duration, so I only have about 4 seconds now in my projectile duration instead of the 5.4 we have of Persistence. But I do get to use Fork, which is stronger than the Pierce support, not necessarily the piercing chance, but as you can read here, it is 50% less damage after forking. The first one's going to do full damage, then it's going to split up into 2, and they're going to do half damage, which is slightly better than the Pierce if you read the Pierce gem. But the actual Anoint obviously doesn't lose that damage, so it is something that you're weighing out there. But I do think it's worth it anointing the Lightning Rod. But again, you need Suffering, Isolation. Sufferings I think are 150, and Isolations are about 300 each, so it's a lot of currency to sink in to that one. And you do want to make sure you have a really nice Everlasting Gaze before you anoint that one. Other couple of things that I've added, I have gone now with the Staff, Singular Power. As I sit in here and I build up the mana, let me just turn that down a bit loud, sorry guys. You'll see that the stages go up, so eventually I get to 4 stages, and per stage I get 14% more damage. So if you look here, I'm at 52k spark now, and then my Lightning Rod on top of that, I'll be pushing that to around 80k. So it's a lot of damage. I also have it on the Curse, so when I curse, this is about 62% conductivity, which is a lot lost there for that one. Now, The last kind of thing I want to talk about, a lot of questions I've been getting asked, is the Ascendancy. Now, I've been doing some testing, and I did like the double shock. The double shock was quite nice, but then I had two kind of awkward points left over, and I thought maybe getting this 20% additional resistance here, but I just didn't think it was quite worth it, because I'm already lowering the resist so much. I just didn't think it was quite worth it with that. I feel like Heart of the Storm, you're just not really necessary a bit later in the game, so the only other options were either chill, or we go to the crit with the Elemental Storm. But because I'm going Controlled Destruction, because of Lightning Rod, because basically if you have Controlled Destruction in here, if you have a look, I can't deal crits. So 5% of my damage or whatever before whatever my crit was wouldn't have been lucky, so you have to use this to maximize the Lightning Rod. It means I can't crit. So therefore, on the Ascendancy, Elemental Storm isn't going to work for me. But I've really liked the chill. So the chill, if you had a look at that start fight with the Arbiter, I was actually getting 17% times 2. So that's 34% chill, even on one of the stronger bosses that you can start off with. Now that can help a lot in a lot of situations. So when I'm going through maps and I come across rares, they're just slower. And then also, obviously, on those bigger bosses, they are also slower as well. So I really like the double chill for now. I might do a little bit more experimenting later with the double shock, because obviously this is a lot more damage. You can get 2 shocks, I think 26% on them, if you have the extra element node here. So yeah, something to definitely look into if you wanted to try something else with that one. Last thing would be the stun nodes. So I picked up these stun nodes as I swapped to the Eldritch Battery. I noticed I was getting stunned a little bit more, so I've picked these up now as well. So I've got these 3 and these 2 here, and that kind of works for me. So yeah, that's basically it with those. Now, if you do have any other questions, I know a lot of you have been following and wanting some updates and maybe kind of seeing how I play, how I go about making currency. I'm actually going to be streaming when this video is live. So I'm going to be streaming on YouTube for now. I may do a Twitch one a bit later, but I'm going to start streaming on YouTube right after this video is up. So if you want to click the link in the description, you can check it out there. Ask me any questions if you would like, and I'll just see if I can help you out with a few things. I've had a few questions that I can't really get to everyone with, so yeah, just go over there and check it out. Thanks for watching, guys.